Lesson 6.1, Ratios and Rates. A ratio uses division to compare two quantities. Equivalent ratios are when they have the same value. A ratio could be if we compare the number of boys in the class to the number of girls in the class. Remember, if we do that and we get 9 boys and 4 girls, we have to keep it as an improper fraction because it compares two quantities. If we turn it into a mixed number, you're not going to be able to see how many boys versus how many girls. Where if we keep it as an improper, you can see the number of boys to number of girls. So ratios, keep them improper if needed. Do not turn them into mixed numbers. It's comparing two quantities. There are 3 ways to write a ratio. Using the word to, and that's also how we say it, A to B, using a colon, so word to, using a colon, and using a fraction bar. Each ratio is read the ratio of A to B. You should always write the ratio in simplest form. In example 1, in a recent baseball season, the Anaheim Angels played 81 home games. Anaheim won 54 of those games and lost 27. Write the ratio in 3 ways. The first ratio we're doing is the number of losses to, now the 2 kind of splits up your ratio. So here's the first quantity, the number of losses. This could be your numerator. This is your numerator because it is the first quantity, to the number of wins. So there were 27 losses, 54 wins. Simplify, and you get 1/2. For part B, we take the we write this 3 ways. Remember, as a fraction bar, using the word to, and with a colon. For part B, we take the number of losses to the number of games. There were 27 losses in 81 games. So 1 out of every 3 games was a loss. You think about it that way. This was the total number of games. We can write it as a fraction, using the word to, and with a colon. Using the information in example 1, compare the number of wins to, so that kind of splits up your ratio, the number of games. Write it in 3 ways. So going back to example 1, there was 54 wins out of 81 games played. Make sure you simplify, which is 2/3, and here are the 3 ways, with a fraction bar, with the word to, and with a colon. In example 2, find a unit rate. On the first day of a family vacation, you and your family drive 392 miles. The amount of gasoline used is 16 gallons. What is the average mileage per gallon of gasoline? A unit rate is a fraction that has a denominator of 1. So comparing the distance traveled, that's the mileage, per, this was our rate. This is our ratio, miles per gallon. Remember, the denominator needs to be 1. So 392 miles for every gallon. To get how many miles in 1 gallon, we need to divide each numerator and denominator by 16, because that's the denominator. That's going to find 24.5 miles for every 1 gallon. That means on a gallon of gasoline, you can drive 24.5 miles. find the unit rate. Remember, the denominator has to be 1, so it needs to be over 1. We're dividing by the denominator 4 to the denominator and the numerator. We have 55 miles per hour. If you did not pause the video for this number 2, please pause the video for number 3 and try this one yourself. Remember, you're trying to find how many dollars per people, or in this case per person. You do want to label your unit rates. Here I had miles per hour. You can't just put down 55. 55 what? Okay, so number 3, we divide by 5, and we have $23 per one person. Again, make sure you label. I will be taking points off if you do not label. In example 3, we write an equivalent rate. The amount of water used in a certain home is 728 gallons per week. Write this rate in gallons per day. So we had per week, now we want to find per day. In order to do that, we need to convert gallons per week to gallons per day. So we need to multiply the rate by the conversion factor. The conversion factor is how many days are in a week. We know there are 7 days in a week, so we can write that as a fraction. Now, how do we know to put 1 week in the numerator and 7 days in the denominator? Well, I eventually want to go from 1 week in the denominator to 1 day. That means I want to end up with the day as my denominator. So that's why I'm going to write my days in the denominator when I write my conversion factor. And here's your conversion factor, 1 week to 7 days. Now just multiply straight across, or you could have divided out common factors, which is what they're going to do here. 728 and 7 both divide by 7. So you get 104 times 1 and 1 times 1. You have 104 gallons per day. Now let me back up and reiterate what I did in this problem. I took my rate. Here's my rate, 728 gallons per week. And I multiply it. You have to multiply it. In your book or in your worksheets, they may actually set up the problem like this. They might say 728 gallons per week equals how many, they'll put like a question mark or a blank there, how many gallons per day. You need to know that you need to rewrite the problem. You need to write down the first fraction and then multiply by the conversion factor. There's no easy way to solve this without rewriting it. Let's look at another one. And this time I'm going to use the equivalent rate. Lightning strikes occur about 100 times per second. Okay, and again, this per, that's showing you your ratio. 100 times per 1 second. You can even say 100 strikes. They put times. Around the world. How many strikes occur in 3 minutes? Okay, well, first of all, we need to change it to 1 minute. We need to figure out how many times in 1 minute. So, I'm going to take my fraction, 100 times per 1 second, rewrite it. Multiply by the conversion factor. What is the conversion factor? Again, this fraction right here is called your conversion factor. We're changing seconds into minutes. You know there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. So how do we write that as a fraction? Well, first of all, let's rewrite our first fraction. And now I'm going to put, because I eventually want minutes in my denominator, I'm going to put minutes in the denominator of my conversion factor. So that means there is 60 seconds goes on top, 1 minute goes in the bottom, on the bottom. Oops. Now you can divide out the common units. Okay, because seconds goes away. When there's 1 in the numerator and 1 in the denominator, they divide out. Multiply straight across. 100 times 60 is 6,000 times per 1 minute. Well, you're not done, because I wanted how many lightning strikes occur in 3 minutes. So I'm going to take this fraction and multiply it by 3 minutes. Again, the minutes cancel because this is over 1. 6,000 times 3 is 18,000 times lightning strikes occur in 3 minutes around the world.